Similar to other reports in the Windchill system, you can also pull reports on some SUMA aspects as well. Two of the major reports that you can pull are an AML AVL list for an OEM part. And what this will show you is not only if the part itself is approved or preferred or not usable, but it'll also tell you the sourcing context of the supplier you chose, whether it's you do it geographically or in some other method. Also, the report will show you whenever an entry is added or modified or deleted in the AMLs and AVLs and which user in your system did that. You can also pull up a vendor line card, which basically shows all of your vendors and manufacturers links that are created from your lists. The image on the left here is a sort of condensed list of the new types that get created when you install SUMA. You can see that you have the manufacturer and vendor supplier types. They exist at the base level. And the part request, which I will cover at the end of this presentation, and the sourcing context also exists at the base level. You can also see that the supplier to part is created as a subtype of part, and underneath that, as subtypes of supplier part, are your manufacturer and vendor parts. Part requests are the newest element of the workflow that actually ties all this together. With a part request, it's used to create a new OEM part when you want to incorporate another vendor or manufacturer's part into your system. A good business case here would be if an engineer has a task to go find a new bolt that meets certain requirements, certain threading, but it's not something that you make. You have to find it from a manufacturer or a vendor. So that engineer could look through a catalog, find a part number that he likes out of a certain vendor or manufacturer, and he can launch this whole process to get it fully approved and in the books in the system. This is the basic list of elements that occur in the workflow for launching a part request. So the first step you do is launch the request. After you launch the request, you have someone on your team review the actual details of the request to make sure that it's a valid request to, say, add that bolt into your system. Once that's approved, that task is marked as approved in Windchill system, and the task goes back to the originator of the request to create the OEM part for the system. Once that part is created, a new task is set out to attach this resultant part to the manufacturer part the supplier part, that was created that launched this whole request. And once the manufacturer part, the OEM part, and the AML or AVL that is required to link the two together are all in place, and only when they're all in place can you move on to the next step in Windchill, which is actually done by your business itself, determining your MCAD model requirements. Once those requirements are met, you have an optional step in the Windchill workflow to request material content declaration. This can be completely overridden if it's not needed. After that step, you basically develop your model, review it, and release it just in your normal CAD system, whether it be ProE, SolidWorks, or any other system. The list of these tasks here are how they actually show up in your workflow as assignments in Windchill. One nice element about this workflow is that there's actually a fast track option in the event that on paper and in your business all of this has been said and done. Everyone agrees that this is going to be this brochure part that you found, you want to bring it into your system, so you can launch a fast track option when you mark the review. And the fast track option just allows you to skip all the steps and approve the part request. So this makes the assumption that your models are already created in your CAD system. All of the signatures required for approving bringing your part into the system are already set up. The site administrator can see a new utility gets formed when you install the SUMA module. If the site administrator goes to the Organization Major tab, he has a new administrator entitled the Supplier Administrator. He can click on here to basically oversee the supplier activities that the sourcing administrator and the organization administrator of your company have control over. And now we'll leave the next couple minutes open to any questions that anyone in the meeting may have. So if anyone has any questions, please fire away.
I have a quick question. I was just wondering what most of these things, obviously, can you use a phase approach, or do you have to use every single module within here?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question one more time?
I'm wondering if you can use bits and pieces of the SUMA module without having to, use the entire thing as one. Can you use the phased approach? Can you just use the manufacturer part? Can you just use the AMLs, the AVLs, for example?
Oh, yes. What you can do is some of the elements of the system are required to use other elements. For example, for AMLs and AVLs, obviously in order to have an AML and AVL, you need to have a manufacturer or vendor part that exists in your system. But the vice versa is true. You can create manufacturer and vendor parts and just integrate them directly into your BOM structure and treat them as if they were your own parts. You can totally forego AMLs and AVLs if you wish.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, great. Well, if nobody has any questions, I want to thank all of you for attending this inaugural Quickbytes meeting. And we hope to see you again. I believe our next conference will be next week, same time, same place.